Okay, let's continue with our news about tariffs. The tariff announcement by U.S. President Donald Trump on April 2nd has fueled intense discussions in capitals around the world on the best way to respond. According to White House officials, more than 50 countries have directly contacted them to initiate trade talks. First in line was Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who visited Trump at the White House on Monday and said that he will eliminate its trade deficit, quote unquote, very quickly. And he wants his country to serve as a model for how to negotiate with the U.S. on trade. South Korea's trade minister, who is currently in the U.S., says that his government has been considering measures to increase imports from the United States as he headed to Washington to negotiate U.S. tariffs. Japan seems to also be up for talks, getting ready to dispatch a team to negotiate with Washington. We're also hearing that Malaysia's prime minister will dispatch officials to Washington to commence discussion on trade tariffs. Taiwanese President Lee Chang-te said Taiwan will not impose any retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports, and he wants to negotiate with the Trump administration with a goal of zero tariffs between the U.S. and Taiwan. British officials believe that they could reach a deal to remove or reduce Trump's 10% tariff on the UK within weeks. And according to reports, they have already began negotiations with the Trump administration, offering to lower tariffs on U.S. goods and preparing to offer lower tax rates for American companies in the UK. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says that Europe is always ready to strike a good deal, but also warned of countermeasures to defend Europe's interests. The European Commission expects to present its response to U.S. President Donald Trump's latest tariff as soon as next week. The Commission's plan will then be finalized in consultations with the EU's 27 member states. Ahead of trade negotiations with President Trump, Indonesia announced concessions for U.S. imports, including reducing taxes on electronic goods and steel. China, on the other hand, has vowed to take countermeasures to protect its interests against President Trump's additional tariff threats. All right, to get to the heart of the matter, joining me right now is Simon Lee. He is a professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Professor Lee, thank you so much for joining us on WION. President Trump's deadline to China ends, we can say, in a few hours or so. Do you think that Beijing will blink? And what are your thoughts about President Trump saying that he's held productive conversations with the Chinese?
Hi, Susan. Now, both are strong leaders. They have their self-esteem, so I don't think they will give up. China will blink. I think they will keep on fighting with each other because from the China side, we are talking about the interests of the whole nation, 1.4 billion people. And then President Donald Trump, again, is a strong leader. So I think they will each introduce additional tariffs until they reach a consensus. But the consensus has not been reached right now.
Very interesting. And how do you look at the wider ramifications of the tariff war between essentially the world's two biggest economies and superpowers?
Now, China's side target at 5% GDP growth, and now the nation is facing rising unemployment issue. So this will have negative impact on the national employment status and the economic growth. On the other hand, for the United States, suppose there should be several rounds of interest reduction. But now with the additional tariffs all around, then inflation will go up again. And this will eliminate the chance of having interest rate reduction. This will have a serious blow to the U.S. stock market and the global stock market as well. The chance of having recession is increasing, but for the time being, I don't think it will lead to serious recession because, President Trump is inviting other nations to negotiate with the United States. So I think sooner or later, China will start its negotiation talks, maybe several rounds, just such as what we see in the Trump 1.0.
Very interesting. And you think that there could be rapprochement between Washington and Beijing? It appears that the two leaders, despite their many differences, have some sort of relationship with one another.
Yeah, there are still talks ongoing, maybe at the junior level, not at the president level. But you see in the Trump 1.0, eventually consensus was reached. So I'm still not too negative on it because both want to reach certain targets or certain outcome. United States, from Trump's perspective, they want to reduce trade deficits. From the China side, they want every nation, especially the big superpower, the big economy, to follow the rule as laid down by the World Trade Organization. So I think it's not too negative on it. Maybe the stock market overreact yesterday. Now the stock market resumed to a bit stable today. So I think not totally bad news. Well, eventually they will reach consensus.
Yeah, it was a wild ride, definitely, and we'll see what happens at closing today. We'll be watching very closely. Professor Lee, thank you so much for joining us on WION. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.